Okay, I'm just about to get started here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Will from the Hermit's Lantern Tarot, and I'm going to do some free card readings today. So let me get set up. My plan today is to have about 10 spots open. I'm not going to be able to do a marathon 3-hour session today, but I'll do as many as I reasonably can, and we'll see how things go. And welcome to all of you who've been here before. I recognize a bunch of your usernames there in the chat. Hello, hello. And welcome to anyone who might be new. Very, very happy to have any newcomers here today. Let me light a candle and burn some Palo Santo. I'm going to read with playing cards today. Let's just get this little flame a little bit higher. I suppose while I'm waiting for this Palo Santo to burn, I can tell you. So last week, I was preparing for a trip, a little vacation that I took. And I was taking the train. And in my previous live stream, I had done a reading for myself about how my train trip was going to be. Because it was a lot. It was, I think it was 4 or 5 hours on the train, and trains can be delayed, and things can go wrong with a train ride, as they can with other forms of transportation too. But in the cards that came up for me, there were a whole lot of spades, and if I remember right, I think it was like 3 spades, king of spades, 10 spades. And so that suggested that there could be a person, a king of spades person, who was really bothering me. And so I knew that sort of going into my trip. And when I was at the station, there were actually 2 people who kind of fit that bill. One person was an older gentleman who was playing very loud games on his phone. And so I knew I didn't want to sit near him. And the other one was someone who was clearly drinking fairly large quantities of alcohol prior to getting on the train. And as far as I know, nothing happened with that guy. But so anyways, I made a point of not sitting near those people. And I had my eyes open for like, who's this King of Swords guy who's maybe going to become bothersome? And so I had a lovely trip and there was no bother, but I suspect that maybe was because I had anticipated sort of keeping an eye out for those kinds of problems. So all was well, and I got home 2 nights ago, and I'm glad to be back and glad to be here reading for you all. I've got a cup of Earl Grey tea. My Palo Santo is burning over here. I've got my list set up. Today I'm going to read with the Calaveras playing card deck. This is by Dead on Paper. Dead on Paper from Ohio, made in the United States. And they're very cool. They've got awesome skulls on them. And they've also, on the box, there's this really cool little quote. I'll see if I can get it close enough. If any of you read Spanish, prefiero morir de pie que vivir de rodillas. I prefer to die standing than to live on my knees. A quote from Emilio Zapata. So that's the deck that I will be using today. And now let me look through the chat and start putting the list together. So let's see. We'll start with Litomi, followed by Vanilla and Pie. Let's see, then Starry Night. All right, let's see. Bukal. Suzanne. Aline. All right. I hope I haven't missed anyone. So here's the list I've got. I hope I wrote reasonably clear. My handwriting, I know, can be a little tough sometimes for folks to read. But here's the list we'll start with. Litomi, Vanilla and Pie, number 3, Starry Night, number 4, Bukal, number 5, SR Kish, number 6, Aline. And I have spots for 4 others if they show up today. And once I get through those 10, I'll probably call it a day. I am going to do a reading for myself as a warm-up. Let me do some shuffling here. Tomorrow, I am taking my husband to the train station because he is going on a little vacation. And so my question is, will his train be on time? All right. Will his train tomorrow be on time? And we'll pull 3 cards, 2 diamonds, Ace of Clubs, ooh, and 10 clubs. Well, that looks like moving very quickly. The 2 diamonds make me think, I don't know, I think of train rails. And then 1 to 10, that is fast. And in the playing cards, especially, I read clubs as a very fast suit. And since I know that the train won't leave early, you know, if it gets to the station early, they will hold it until it is time to leave. And so this suggests it's going very, very fast. And so that tells me it's going to leave on time. So yes, the answer to my question is yes, we can expect that his train tomorrow will leave right on time. Perhaps it will even get to the station a little bit early because it's going so quickly. But then presumably they will hold it because they won't have the train leave the station early. Cool. All right, so Let's do the first reading, and that will be for Litomi. And so, Litomi, if you'd like to post your question. Whoa. I love your question. Litomi, I love your question. Litomi's question is, if my suffering disappeared, would my identity disappear with it? That is very deep. In fact, it makes me think of a, I can't remember who this quote's attributed to, but there's a quote that is something like, human beings have a choice between boredom and suffering. Like, you can either be bored, or if you're not bored, you can suffer. And those are sort of your your two options as part of the human condition. And I think there's quite a lot of truth to that. So I would say I'm also sorry that you're suffering, but I'm glad you're not bored. If you're not bored, maybe that's something that we can say. And so you're wondering, like, to what extent is your sense of self, your identity, all bound up with your suffering? And if you lost the suffering, would you still be who you are? That's a huge question. Let's ask the cards and see what we get. This is a challenge. I like a challenge. It also makes me think about, a lot of human beings' creative outlets come from, at least to some extent, suffering, right? Like art in particular. Most artists in one way or another have experienced some kind of suffering, and they turn that suffering into something else. And so, if you were to ask an artist, for example, would you be the same artist that you are now if you had never suffered? I suspect the answer would be no from many of them. Okay, here we go. 3 cards, 4 diamonds. 5 clubs. Jack of clubs. And the Jack of clubs is looking at something. So I'm going to flip over the deck and look at the surprise card. And it's 3 diamonds. So let me look at these a moment. The first thing I notice is the way the Jack of clubs, before I flip the surprise card over, is sitting next to a handful of clubs. And then we've got pretty even distribution of 2 suits here, clubs and diamonds. 4 to 5, and then the Jack, and then down to 3. The other thing that's really interesting to me here is that when you use the word suffering, the suit that comes to mind with suffering is spades, right? If I'm looking for suffering, I'm looking at someone who's got a lot of spades cards in their life, right? At least at the moment. And so seeing no spades here, the way I would answer your question is no, you would not be the same person. You would have to learn how to become someone else. You would have to take a deep breath and work hard to learn how to be someone else. And the reason I say that is a couple things which I'll point out in the cards. Well, let's look at the Jack first. You're showing up here as the Jack of clubs. And so in the playing cards, the jacks would be akin to the pages in the tarot, if you're familiar with those. And so those are often students, right? Pages are figuring things out. They still have a lot to learn, and um, I guess with a jack or a page, they don't know exactly who they are yet. They are figuring that out. And so that's the first reason why I would say no, you would not be the same person. You would have to, like a jack, figure out who you are, and you'd have to do work to do that. Clubs I see as the suit of work. And so the jack, the student of work, would have to put his whole body into working. But then also the steadiness of your mind, the way that you understand yourself as a person, the ideas that you have about yourself, those would become kind of unstable from 4 to 3, and you'd have to learn. You would have to grow your mind again. With the 3s, we think of growth often, something getting bigger incrementally, little by little. And so the 3 of diamonds here along the side of the jack, that's learning, that's growth, that's figuring things out. And so yeah, I think your suffering, for better or worse, is part of who you are as a person. And so if it were to disappear, it would make you a different person, right? And I suspect that in many cases that would, or maybe every case, we'd have to get pretty philosophical about it, but that would be true for many people. I think it would be true for me. If the suffering I've experienced in my life had not happened, I don't think I'd be who I am today. And so in a weird sense, I mean, maybe this is sort of implied in your question. I don't know. Maybe I'm taking it too far, but is there a way in which we can perhaps learn to appreciate the things we have endured, because they do make us who we are, which isn't to say that we've like enjoyed them or anything. I mean, God, I've been through some terrible things, and I suspect you have too. And everyone has, to some extent. Everybody's got their suffering or their trauma or whatever it might be. But that's also sort of, I won't say it defines you as a person, but it does contribute to how you understand yourself and who you are as a person, right? So the short answer to your question is yes, right? You would have to learn who you are sort of all over again. If there were no suffering, as there is no suffering here, there's effort, there's work, and there's learning, but that's not necessarily suffering. As I said, that would really be spades. And there are no spades here. So if there were no suffering, yeah, you'd have to figure out who you are all over again. Fantastic question. Thanks for starting us off with that. I appreciate it. It's one I've never gotten before, and I love that. I love when I can read for a question that's new, that's different for me. All right, so next up, and you're very welcome. Next up is Vanilla and Pie. And Bob Hope, I'll go ahead and add you to the end of the list. And so just as a reminder to everyone, as I work my way down the list, I'll call your name, and then you'll have the opportunity to post your question in the chat. And then if you're not here, I'll call your name 3 times. And if I don't hear from you, then I'll have to cross you off and move on to the next person. But of course, I'll be happy to read for you at a future live stream. All right, so it looks like we've got our question from Vanilla and Pie. So I will shuffle. And while I'm doing that, I'm also available for paid private readings if that interests anyone. And you can take a look at the Linktree link in the video description for more information about those. I'm also available via email at tarot.hermit.lantern@gmail.com. All right, so Vanilla and Pie has a question about a relationship. And so it sounds like there was a breakup caused by an interfering family. That a family interfered. Let's see. The last time I had a reading, you told me he was going to end it and set boundaries with them. Unfortunately, he didn't with us. And maybe for himself when he wakes up. Okay. And so you want to know what's next in the relationship because he's not setting boundaries with his family. And so his family is interfering and that's making it impossible for the two of you to, what's next with his family? Okay. All right. Well, let's see. What's next with his family? All right, let's see. This family that interfered with your relationship, what's next for them? All right, we'll lay down 3 cards. Okay, 9 clubs. Let's see, is that... Ooh, 4 spades. And the Jack of Diamonds. So, I've read for you before about this, and unfortunately at the moment my mind is not clearly remembering the context for all of that. But I'm going to do my best to recall what I can recall. With the 9 of clubs, I think what they're going to do is they're going to change their tactics or change their plans. They're like going to take a different approach. Like they feel like they've maybe almost accomplished something that they've been working towards, and now they realize they have to do something differently. And so they're trying to figure out what is that going to look like. And what does it look like is 4 spades, which we can read as, 4 spades can be the quote unquote jail card. I don't know if that's on the table, if they've done anything illegal or if that's like a possibility at all. But if there's ever a context in which prison or jail is on the table, 4 spades, they're like locked in behind bars. These are the bars, and the bars are all around them. And so it's like an iron room. It can also mean, though, just like they're going to bury themselves more metaphorically, if it's not something quite as big as, like getting arrested, or something like that. And it's very, I don't know if there could be money involved here, but when I see the Jack of Diamonds, this could, of course, be a specific person. It would likely be a young person, maybe like a student. I don't know if that's involved. But the other thing a Jack of Diamonds can be is just a message about money. And so it could be that what they're going to do is make a final push in changing their tactics to cause like money to get buried, or money get locked behind bars, if that makes sense. Like lock away the money in a big iron box, that kind of thing. And so like what's next for them, this card is sort of answers that in the broadly, the 9 of clubs does, which is they're going to change their tactics. They're going to change their plans. They're going to change their behavior, right? Like the way that they've been putting effort in, they're going to do something differently now. And then the answer to what is it they're going to do differently? Well, it has to do with putting up a barrier or burying something having to do with a message about money. And let's look at the surprise card because I kind of want to know more. 9 diamonds. So 9 clubs, 9 diamonds. This suggests like each of the clubs turns into a diamond, meaning like the effort they put in is getting some results, is getting like for every tree they plant, they get a diamond out of it. They get a reward for it. But where is the 10th diamond would sort of be my question. When we see the 2 9s, I think, where is the 10th? And the other thing, of course, that I'm thinking is which suit is missing here? And the suit that's missing is hearts. And you're asking about a relationship. And so what I would say they're not going to do, which isn't strictly speaking, your question is what's next for them, right? So what's next for them is I think they're going to use a different method to try to do the same thing they've been doing all along. What they're not going to do is be a loving family, right? There's nothing here that suggests happy good times and group hugs and festivities and all of that. This is all putting in effort. This is all scheming, negotiating, strategies, transacting, burying stuff, fighting. This is all of that kind of stuff. There's nothing here that suggests they're going to be a big happy family, if that makes sense. So I don't think they're going to change sort of who they are. I think they're going to change what they're doing because they feel like it will be more effective if they change their method. But they're not going to have a change of heart, for example, right? What's going to change is how they're trying to interfere, like their method for doing that. But they're not going to like change their, like go back on what they've done, if that makes sense. Yeah. I mean, this looks like a relationship that is about putting pressure on people, putting restraints on them, and then if there's anything that seems positive about it, it's very transactional. Like, if you do this, we'll do that, as opposed to unconditional love, which is the kind of thing that, in most families we would want to see, I think. Yeah, so I hope that gets at your question of of what they're going to do. I mean, they're going to put pressure on, they're going to fight, and they're going to try to bury those coins or diamonds. Yeah, sorry I couldn't give you some hearts here that might indicate a change for the better. But you're welcome. I mean, it sounds like at least this kind of validated what you thought, and sometimes that is one of the values of reading cards. You know, you might hope for something else, but at least being validated in what is happening in the situation can be beneficial too. All right, so next up is Starry Night. Thank you, Vanilla. I appreciate that. So Starry Night, if you are here, you can post your question in the chat. And while we're waiting for Starry Night's question, take a look at the Linktree link in the video description for information about my private readings if that interests you. I offer live one-on-one video conferencing readings as well as pre-recorded readings. And you can also email me at tarot.hermit.lantern@gmail.com. All right, so Starry Night, if you are here, Starry Night is up next, and Starry Night can post their question in the chat. And Bukal, you are after Starry Night. We'll see if Starry Night shows up or not. But I'll be calling your name next if Starry Night is not here. I want to give just a moment for them to post. I know last week there was some trouble with the chat, I suppose, where I was able to see the chats and everything, but several people were saying that they weren't able to write in the chat. It was 3 or 4 people, and so that caused some trouble. But I went back and read for them anyways. Once we figured out that that's what had happened. So, all right. So last call for Starry Night. If you're here, Starry Night, let us know. And then post your question. Otherwise, we will move on. All right. Well, it seems like Starry Night isn't here. So, Bukal, if you'd like to post your question, you are welcome to do that. Oh, Starry Night's here. All right. Well, go ahead and post your question, please. All right. How does Joseph feel about Starry Night? All right. How does Joseph feel about Starry Night? Here we go. Queen of Spades. 6 clubs. 7 hearts. Okay, so this one's pretty straightforward. Now I didn't ask for any context, so I don't know. I'm sort of guessing that this is someone that you're interested in romantically. And it looks like he sees you as the Queen of Spades. In the tarot, it would be the Queen of Swords. And so the Queen of Spades is someone who can be a little tough to deal with, right? Why? Well, because she's absolutely truthful and to like almost to a fault. She's the kind of person who can sometimes, without necessarily meaning to, can offend or hurt other people, right? I mean, she can also, if she wanted to do that on purpose, she certainly could do it on purpose too. But I don't think that's the case here at all, because of the other cards that are showing up with her, right? And so when I read a spread like this, where you get a court card of a particular suit, here spades, but there's no other spades up, right? It's not like we've got other spades cards here. That suggests that even though her inclination might be more towards cutting, right, or stabbing, right, she's putting in a lot of effort. She's working on trying to bring about more hearts in her life, right? So I think he's maybe a little cautious around you because he thinks there's a chance that he could get hurt. However, there's a sense that by putting in effort towards like building a relationship, right, that you could end up with something more sweet, right, with hearts. However, there is, I wish these were 6 hearts, but we've got 7, and 7's an odd number. It suggests there's a challenge here, right? So he's cautious, but thinks that if effort were expended, there would still be a challenge, but that it could be like an emotional challenge, or a test. We could put it that way. That could potentially be overcome, right? So like if this is someone that you've got a crush on, I think they might be keeping their distance and stay like a little ways back because they're a little bit afraid to approach, even though they can see like, gosh, if we could walk this path together, the whole circumstance could change for the better, but we'd still have something we'd have to work on. But it would be something to work on related to love as opposed to those very prickly spades or the clubs, which require you to expend so much effort. So let's look at the surprise card to see either what he may not be completely aware of. Because, of course, I'm reading these from his perspective. This is what he thinks of you. It doesn't mean that this is how you are, right? We didn't ask like to describe your personality. We asked, what does he think? So let's see what the surprise card is. And it's 10 clubs. And so 10 clubs, that's a lot of effort. That's putting in a whole lot of work. And so depending on what kind of context he finds himself in or what kind of person he is, he may or may not be inclined to put in that effort. Um, he doesn't necessarily think that it's you who's a lot of work, but he thinks that the circumstances surrounding a relationship require that he exert himself, right? Require that, in other words, like it's not like he thinks, oh gosh, this will be easy, right? He thinks this is a relationship that would require me to work at it. And, the truth is that's true for all relationships. Um, and honestly, I think that folks get into trouble when they think, oh, this relationship won't be any work. We just love each other and this will be easy. Because I don't think that ever lasts. At some point, there's always effort. And so, you say he's avoidant, and to them, all people are work. Yeah. So like another question to ask. I'm only doing one question per person today, but another question to ask would be: is he prepared to put effort into a relationship? Right? Because the answer we're getting here is he sees that the relationship would require effort. But then sort of the question to follow up would be, okay, so is he cool with that or not? Right? And you know him better than I do, obviously. And you say he's avoidant, and that sounds like a no to me, unfortunately. Right? Like, if he's the kind of person who's like, yeah, I want a relationship, but I don't want to work for it. Well, guess what? That's not how this kind of thing works. If it's a one-sided relationship where one person puts in the effort and the other person doesn't, it's not much of a relationship, right? So, it sounds like he would need to adjust his thinking about relationships, or maybe grow up a little about understanding how relationships work. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if you say he needs to grow up and heal, if his avoidance could have to do with being hurt in the past. And so if he thinks he's going to get hurt again in the future, his way of preventing that might be to just say, well, if I don't invest myself, if I don't exert myself in a relationship, then I can't get hurt again. Right? Which is sad because until that changes, he's not ever going to be in another relationship, or at least not a good one, right? Like maybe someday he'll find someone who's willing to put in all the effort while he does nothing, but I don't think they're going to be happy, unless he realizes that and as you say, grows up. Okay, so let's see. That was Starry Night. And so next up we have Bukal. If you're here, Bukal. All right, and we've got our question from Bukal. All right, Bukal wants to know what's next in her love life. Is it something with a person I'm in love with right now or someone new? All right, let's see. All right, what's next in Bukal's love life? Something with a person you are in love with right now or someone new? Here we go. 3 diamonds. 8 clubs. 5 clubs. All right, let me take a look here. Have a sip of tea. I think this has got to be someone you already know, because in order to say it's someone new, I would want to see aces, one of the aces, or I would want to see a court card that then I would describe to you. And if you said, no, I don't know anybody like that, then I would say, okay, well, then that must be a new person. But we didn't get any court cards and we didn't get any aces or even like maybe a 10, because a 10 can be a transitional card too, kind of like an ace can. But instead, the first card down is a 3 of diamonds. And so 3 is about growth. And so that suggests something growing with someone you already know, right? And so there's nothing like new there's like not a new person that I see here. Uh, Instead, what I see is the growth of something that's already been established, right? And so it's a three of diamonds, which suggests a growing interest or growing investment or growing value, right? Like it's not stable because that would be at least a four. Like four is where you've got your corners covered. Three is like it's still taking shape, it's still getting off the ground. But it's something that is still being negotiated, might be a way of putting it. And so that's what we see with the first card. The other two cards are clubs, which indicate putting in effort, like working at it, right? And so um, with the eight, we can think of you're making plans for how to put in this effort. Like, how are you going to negotiate the relationship with this other person, right? And with the five, this suggests working really hard at it. So, the short answer to your question is that there'll be a growing interest with someone you already know, and you'll be thinking about how, like, what practical strategies could you use or could you engage in order to work hard to build a relationship with this person. And it sounds like you know who this person is. um so you said the person I'm in love with right now. So um I'm sticking to one question per person today, but what I can do is I'll flip it over and we'll look at the surprise card and see if that can give us any insight, any further insight. And it's the Seven of Hearts. And so the surprise card, which is the card at the bottom of the cut deck, you just flip the whole deck over, and it's the card at the very bottom there. And it's the card that indicates something that is maybe unexpected, that's coming further on in the future that, could maybe be kind of a surprise that you're not certain of. It can also be a card that sort of synthesizes everything else that's on the table. And so with the Seven of Hearts, we just had this card for, I think it was for Starry Nights reading. Is that right? And so hearts, of course, are love and emotions, but with the seven, it's like there's an obstacle to it, right? And so with the sevens, I think of how with the sixes you have a clear kind of path, right? The two sets of three make a clear path or a channel where things can flow, but the seven, it's blocked, right? There's this one odd heart in the middle here, which is kind of getting in the way, sort of. So the nice thing to see in the surprise card is that there are hearts here, which indicate that there is affection. However, the affection is blocked, right? There's an obstacle or a challenge or something that's getting in the way. Um, Despite all the effort that's being put in and the growing um, interest or the in increasing negotiation or figuring out strategizing how this relationship might work out is giving us hearts, but they're stopped up, they're blocked, they're kind of uneasy, unfortunately. And so it's with a seven, it's like, is it going to work out? Well, it depends on if this challenge can be overcome or not. If it were a six of hearts or a 10 of hearts or any of the even heart cards, two of hearts would be really good for. That suggests more like, yes, it's going to all sort of round out evenly. But when we get an odd heart, especially the 7, that's more like it might work out, but there is a clear obstacle that would need to be overcome in order for it to work out. It's not like easy sailing here where everything's just gonna flow. It's there, there is work to be done for this relationship to grow, to move forward. And I see some folks have joined the chat. Welcome. I'm going to update my list here. I think we've got a sunshine pattern I'll add. And Fabi, I'll add you. And Lucia. And then I am sticking to 10 today. So I'm going to have to stop there. Sometimes I reopen the list, like if people miss their turn. I can't guarantee it, but it is a possibility. But I'm committed to doing 10 readings today, and so I'm going to stop at that point, and we'll see how things go if I end up doing more. Okay, so that was Bukal's reading. And so next we have SR Kish. SR, if you are here, you are welcome to post your question in the chat. And if I am not able to read for you today, I would be very happy to read for you in the future. Not just SR. I'm not talking about SR. I'm talking about for everybody. If you miss your turn or don't make it onto the list, then I would be very happy to read for you in a future live stream. And I'm also available for paid private readings. For any of you who might be interested in that, you can check out the Linktree link in the video description. All right. And we've got SR's question. All right. So SR says, things with P have become very positive. Well, that's very nice to hear. And so you want me to pull a few cards, just like about where your relationship is right now? All right. Yes, or his thoughts. Okay. So we're more concerned sort of with what his perspective on things is. That's good to clarify, because if there's any ambiguity, it's always good to know, like, whose perspective are we looking at things from? All right. Here we go. 8 spades. Oh. 4 hearts. 4 clubs. So I like seeing the 4 hearts in the center of the spread. They've got 2 black cards on either side of them. The 8 of spades suggests that he might be a little anxious or uncertain. He might have some fears here. And maybe it's because things have turned so positive that he's afraid something might like go wrong, right? There could also be an issue with this first card that the context, like the environment, the atmosphere of the situation is a little bit, there could be some negativity in it, right? But that seems to be replaced by the 4 hearts, which suggest, fours are about steadiness and security. And so 4 hearts, that's fantastic because that suggests like his heart feels secure, right? So even though there's maybe something in the context or the atmosphere is causing him trouble, he feels like his heart is steady, his heart is secure, right? And that he's got a firm footing with the 4 of clubs. The 4 of clubs is like your, the 4 walls of your house or the 4 legs of your table or your chair. It's steady. It's not going to fall over, right? It's secure. It's interesting too that you say he has job issues, because you specifically asked about the sort of the relationship between the two of you, and so I think what this is saying that is that even though there's this thoughts he's having about things in life that are bothering him, he's finding steady love and steady, how shall we say, steady practicality in life, like a steady, like the 4 walls of the house are sturdy. And so I think he's getting that from the relationship that he's got with you that's turned positive recently, which I'm very happy to hear. So one other thing to think about is the way then I do this sometimes when the numbers sort of add up to one another. 4 and 4 is 8, right? 4 plus 4 is 8. And so the first card is an 8, and then the other 2 are 4s. And so that suggests that like whatever bad stuff is happening in his life is getting balanced out by the steadiness that the relationship is providing, right? Like the steadiness of the heart and the steadiness of the building of the relationship, those two things add up to counterbalance the negative atmosphere that he might find himself in. And so love's at the center of it. Emotions are at the center of it. But it's like it's not all good, right? There's he's clearly got some trouble in there, but it's I think that what he's finding with you is counterbalancing that. It's probably something he really needs right now. I'm so glad to hear things are looking up. And you said he's having job issues. I wish him the best of luck with his job search. That is so tough right now. I mean, I guess it's always kind of tough, but it just seems particularly difficult at the moment. All right, so here's the current state of the list, and Aline is next. Aline is next. I have several friends who are searching for jobs, and it's rough out there. And it's not necessarily any better if you have experience or education, or it's tough everywhere. All right, so Aline has a question about love life. General reading about her love life because you just broke up. Okay. All right. Here we go. Ooh, ouch. 7 spades. Queen of spades. And 10 clubs. Well, I don't know that this is going to. These cards confirm very much kind of what you're saying. So, traditionally the 7 of spades is the card of tears. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if there were some tears shed over the breakup. Um, and you're showing up here as the Queen of Spades, who is often a single woman. And she's looking, she's got the tears behind her, and she's looking at the 10 clubs, suggesting the completion of something that she's put effort into, right? And that could be the completion of a project, but it could also be the completion of putting effort into a relationship, right? Which is what fits given the context that you've provided. So I definitely want to look at the surprise card here, because the cards that you're getting, I think, are telling you what you already know. They're validating that what you have experienced is affecting you, and there's sometimes you've probably heard the metaphor that the tarot is a mirror, and I think it can also be a door or a bridge, but this is a mirror to me, right? You tell me, like, what's up, what's going on in my love life. I just had a breakup. Well, this is someone who's just had a breakup. It's a mirror reflection of it. And so yes, right? But I don't know that's to some extent, I think that that validation can be helpful. But let's look at the surprise card, just to see what else we might get. All right. All right. I like this. This is good. It's the Ace of Diamonds. Ace of Diamonds. All right. So with the Ace of Diamonds, it's time to start something new, right? I love seeing you've got your 10, something's been completed, and then you've got your ace, time to start something new, right? And so it's the surprise card. And so it's like, this is coming at some point, but you have to go through all of this crap first, right? You have to work through the breakup stuff. You just have to. There's no way out except through. And so you have to do that. But then you can reconfigure, right? You can get a new interest. You can start up a new conversation with somebody else. I will say the diamond here does make me think more about starting a kind of intellectual relationship rather than something immediately based on romance right away, right? So like if I saw an ace of hearts here, that might say, go fall in love again, right? An ace of diamonds is more like, go find someone to talk to, right? Someone who sparks an interest in your mind, right? And which isn't to say that that couldn't turn into a romantic relationship. It certainly could. But with the ace of diamonds, you want to think about reconfiguring things, doing something like taking a different aim, or going in a different direction, that kind of thing. Once one thing is ended, don't just repeat what you did last time, right? But like take it from a different angle. That's what I get with the ace of diamonds here in the context of your question. I always am reading the cards in the context of the question, right? Because, traditionally people might say, oh, the ace of diamonds, that means you're going to get some money. Well, great, but that doesn't have anything to do with your question, right? Like you asked a question about your love life. And so if I were to say to you, oh, you're going to get some money, that's an incredibly unsatisfying way to answer a question about love, which is why in the context of your question, I would say the diamond is about having a new interest in someone that is more based on um, the mind, right? I read the diamonds and the playing cards in terms of things you can exchange with someone else, right? So thoughts, ideas, values, right? As opposed to a big watery romantic heart, All right. You're very welcome, Aline. I wish you the best of luck. Breakups suck. Ask me how I know. Not a fun time. But you learn from them, It's not an easy lesson, but I think, or I hope I've learned something from every one of my breakups. Okay, Bob Hope, are you here? If Bob Hope is here, I will read for Bob Hope. And here is the current state of the list. Bob Hope. All right, Bob Hope, if you are here, I can read for you second. Oh, you are here. Fantastic. All right, so feel free to post your question. Okay, and I'm just scrolling through. I think I maybe see your question earlier. Okay, your daughter said that her mom said that you are not her dad. Is this true or not? Thank you. Okay, let me clarify. Are you wanting to know if it's true that her mom said this? Or are you wanting to know if it's true that you're not her dad? And because those are sort of two different questions. And for the sake of precision, I would need to know which one we are trying to find the answer to. Do we want to know if her mom said you're not her dad? That's one question. Or do we want to know if you both? Well, I'm only doing one question per person today. So you're going to have to pick one. Why don't we go with the first one? Is it true that her mom said that you are not her dad? Okay. Okay. You want to go with the second one, sounds like. All right. And then to further clarify, I assume we're talking strictly in terms of biology, because it sounds like you are her dad, right? In terms of the position that you play in her life and your relationship with her and all of that kind of thing. But it sounds like you want to know if there's like a biological component. Okay, let's see what we get. 9 diamonds, 6 diamonds, 3 clubs. So, I've never read for a question like this before, but the kind of thing that I would look for in order to say there is a biological relationship, that's such a weird way to put it, but you know what I mean, right? Whether there's like a biological fact of your parentage. I would look for number one, the hearts suit, because hearts are blood, right? And so you're asking about a blood relation, if there's a blood relation as opposed to a cultural relationship or some other kind of relationship. That your question is very specific about, is there a biological blood relation? And so one thing I would look for is, do I see hearts on the table? The other thing I might look for is if I were to see court cards from the same suit. So maybe if I saw like a king of clubs and the jack of clubs, that would show like, two people, like a father and a daughter from the same suit, and therefore like from the same kind of family. And so those are the first things that I would look for. And as you can see, what I see instead are diamonds and clubs here on the table. And so my first instinct is to say, I think that the relationship is not necessarily one based in a like biological blood relation. I will say that, let me think just a moment. That seeing all of the diamonds suggests incredible value. Think about how precious a diamond is, and we've got a lot of them here. We've got, 9 and 6. So it's almost suggesting like the value of the relationship is so much greater than the effort being put into it, if that makes sense. All of these diamonds are higher in intensity or value than the clubs, and the clubs represent like the effort put into the bond. And so it's like there's a whole lot of value or payoff or importance to the relationship that is gained from the effort that's put into the relationship. But I don't see something here that says that is based in a biological fact. Does that make sense? It's almost as though the spread is saying what matters is how you value the relationship, right? Because with diamonds, I'm always thinking about value, not whether it's based on blood. And I'm just looking at these cards to see if there's anything I'd want to add. I mean, I guess the one other thing I see is the way in which the movement of the cards, because I read them left to right. With the 9, you get the 2 columns of 4, and then there's like a center one in the middle. But then with the 6, the sort of the channel, the path is opened up so that things can move freely there. As though like these the clubs, the effort you put into the relationship can like move freely through the path, but not necessarily because of a biological relationship. All right, and folks are asking about where we are on the list, and so next is Sunshine Pattern, followed by Fabi, and then Lucia. And that's where we'll end today. I'm doing just 10 readings today, and so my list is full. If I'm not able to read for you today, though, I would love to read for you in a future live stream. I'm also available for paid private readings, and you can find more information about those by clicking the Linktree link in the video description. I offer live one-on-one video conferencing readings as well as pre-recorded audio readings. All right, it looks like we've got our question from Sunshine Pattern in the chat. Will my person contact me in April? Will Sunshine Pattern's person contact them in April? Okay, let's see. All right, first card. Ooh, 5 hearts. 2 spades. 6 spades. Let me take a look at this for a moment before I start speaking. I want to respond directly to the question that you asked. So, I mean, okay, it's definitely on the table. I'm trying to determine, because of the 6 of spades, I am trying to determine whether this person does it or not. Because the 6 of spades can mean backing out of something. Like intending to do something and then not doing it. So let's look at the cards individually and build a narrative. The 5 hearts, this is your person, and they've got your heart in their hand, so to speak. But then it turns into spades. 2 spades. This is a troubling tension. It can indicate an argument. It can indicate a duel, right? Let me look at the surprise card. 5. So is it possible that this person could contact you, but in a way that you don't want them to? Because when I get a question like yours, I imagine that what you are hoping is like a message about dating, or at least showing some kind of interest in the other person, right? And so I would love to see 2 diamonds or 2 hearts, or even 2 clubs. But seeing 2 spades suggests an exchange between people, or a tension between people, that is not particularly pleasant. And then it increases from 2 to 6, so that you end up with more spades, suggesting like the path is troubled. And with the surprise card being the 5 of clubs, it's like you're gonna have to take a breath and force it a bit. So like it's suggesting that if this person does contact you, it may not be with necessarily good words. Or that whatever exchange you have with this person is going to indicate you guys have a tough path and a lot of work to do, a lot of effort to put in. And so I don't, the context that more than I do. And so, I don't know if you've argued in the past, or if there's a tension between you, or what the context is between you all. But this suggests that the exchange you have in April is going to not be particularly pleasant. All right. And I don't know Sunshine Pattern. I'm not sure if you're still here. But so my answer, Sunshine Pattern, is yes, that you will have an exchange with this person, like a contact. But I don't know that it's going to be a pleasant conversation. Okay, so next on my list, I have Fabi. So if Fabi is here, Fabi, I can read for you if you'll put your question in the chat. All right, Fabi, if you're here, go ahead and post your question. Otherwise, Lucia, if you are here, I can read for you. Oh, good. Fabi's here. Great. So, Fabi, go ahead and post your question in the chat. All right. All right. So Fabi asks, how does the Libra feel about the fact that I've ghosted him? I was not liking his behavior, so I stopped responding to his messages. All right. All right, here we go. How does the Libra feel about the fact that Fabi ghosted him? Here we go. 6 clubs, 7 diamonds, 10 clubs. So he'd felt like that you're like on a path together. 6s are about paths or choices, things moving from one place to another. And that he's putting in effort, right? He's working at moving things along. And then you're ghosting him very much upset his mind, which is significant and interesting, but it is important, I think, that it's not his heart, right? So with the diamonds in the playing cards, I think of those associated with thoughts, ideas, with the mind, with the nervous system. And so, and 7s are challenges or obstacles or problems. And so he's thinking about it, and it's stuck in his mind, so to speak. It's an obstacle to his mind that is maybe putting a lot of pressure on him, to the point where it's like it's pressing, and it's like as much as it could be, because it's 10. So he obviously doesn't like it, but I don't know how involved you were with this person, but it's significant that we don't see hearts, right? Anytime I'm looking at the cards, I'm looking not just at what is there, but what is not there. And so in a question about a relationship, which I'm assuming we're talking about like a loving, like a romantic kind of relationship, based on the context you provide with the question, that's a hearts question, right? And so if we saw the 7 of hearts here, I would say, well, he's heartsick, right? His heart is wounded by this. But it seems to be more like his mind, right? Like it's a puzzle that he's trying to figure out more than it's like he's heartsick. Does that make sense? I'm going to go ahead and peek at the surprise card. Well, so there are some hearts there, but he may not be aware of them. So seeing hearts as the surprise card, and we're reading this, of course, from his perspective, which means it might be a surprise even to him, or especially to him, that he's thinking about the relationship, right? In affectionate kind of terms. So this suggests to me someone who is maybe not totally emotionally present or mature, so that when you ghost him, as you say, he's thinking like, oh, well, why did she do that? Not how does that make me feel, right? He's thinking like, how could I negotiate with her to make things different? What kind of effort could I put in? He's not like consciously aware or thinking about, gosh, that really hurts my feelings, right? But the surprise is that underneath it all, it does, right? Underneath it all, he's got hopes for the relationship and fears that it might be over or too late. But that's not immediately obvious to him. What's immediately obvious to him is the way in which the progress in the relationship has been obstructed by your lack of communication on purpose, right? and that he's like trying to rationalize it. He's trying to use his thoughts to figure this out. But underneath it, he's got some real emotional hopes and fears that are a surprise to him, right? That may come out later, but that he's maybe not completely expecting. The other thing that I could say here with the 10 of clubs is he might, as he's rationalizing whatever happened between the two of you, he may be thinking, well, I've done all I can do. This has run its course. This relationship is completed. This isn't an ending, right? Because if aces are beginnings and tens are endings. But seeing the 8 of hearts down here, even if he's rationalizing things that way, the 8 of hearts says he's hoping that there's still some affection, right? He's hoping that he's hoping maybe that it isn't over. He hopes that there's hope. Yeah. But he's rationalizing things to say it's run its course. I've done what I can do. We've put in the effort. We've done the thing, and now it's ended. But underneath it, there's like hope that it isn't ended. All right. And I see Lucia's posted her question, which is fantastic. So I'm going to read for Lucia. All right. And so Lucia wants to know, will my person contact me or take some kind of action towards me in the next 30 days? Let's see. Okay, here we go. Will Lucia's person contact Lucia or take some kind of action in the next 30 days? All right, first card, Queen of Clubs. 10 spades. Okay, so you have got to be the Queen of Clubs here, which means that your person must be the Jack of Hearts. And whenever I see, if we saw a King of Hearts here or a King of Clubs, any king really, that would indicate that the two of you are sort of on an equal footing. But seeing a queen paired with a jack suggests that, jacks are still figuring things out. They're like the pages in the tarot. And so they're learning. And there's still a certain amount of immaturity or hesitancy or shyness that they have not mastered in the way that a king or a queen is more sure of themselves and has established themselves, or just, we could say they've just grown up. Kings and queens are grown up, and jacks still have something to learn about life, particularly related to their suit. And so your person, if they're showing up here as the Jack of Hearts, well, it does suggest that they have feelings, right? With hearts, it's emotions, feelings, love, right? But will they contact you about them? There's 10 spades between the two of you, right? There's something is blocking the two of you from making contact. And I don't know, the context would indicate what that is, but this suggests that there's like a wall. This is like a big black wall or a big black pit that's between the two of you, that it's a gulf between the two of you. And so this suggests, if it's not sort of obvious, no, right? I would say this person is, it could be their anxiety. It could be fear that they have of getting hurt. It could be, given that they're showing up as the Jack here, they feel too hesitant or uncertain or shy or whatever it might be. And so that's putting a gulf between the two of you. Let's look at the surprise card and see if that changes anything. Okay. 6 diamonds is the surprise. So the 6 of diamonds does suggest opening a channel of communication. And so what the surprise might be that he manages to overcome the gulf, his shyness or the bad blood between you, or whatever is messing things up between you, and get things moving, so to speak. Because 6 of diamonds, that's an open channel for communication. But given that it's the surprise card, it suggests it might even be a surprise to him, right? So I think that what these cards indicate is that right now he has no intention of contacting you, but things may happen in the next 30 days which open up this channel of communication in a way that he is not currently intending, right? So like, he's not planning on it. He doesn't intend on it. He's envisioning a gulf between the two of you. But the surprise is that the channel of communication opens anyway. So given the surprise card as the 6 of diamonds, I'd revise my original interpretation to say, it's not that he's not going to contact you. It's that he has no intention of contacting you. And it will be a surprise even to him when the lines of communication do open in the next 30 days. All right. Those were 10 readings. I've done 10 now, and that was my goal today, was to do 10 free readings. And I have accomplished that goal, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful to all of you who joined me here and posted your questions and participated in the chat and were kind to each other and um, civil and all of that good stuff, and asked very wonderful questions, some really excellent questions today. I appreciate it. I know I was not able to read for everybody who was in the chat, and I want you to know I would be very happy to read for you in a future live stream or for one of my private readings. I encourage you to like and subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe, it's easier to see when I have scheduled a live stream, and I do try to schedule them at least a couple of days in advance. If you are subscribed to the channel, then when you open up YouTube, you'll see me over there on the left. And if there's a little dot next to my name, that means I've got something on the books. And if you go in there and click on me and click on lives, you'll see when the next live stream is scheduled for. For those of you I wasn't able to read for today, I would love to read for you in the future at some point. And for those of you I was able to read for, thank you very much. And I hope that your reading resonated and was helpful and useful to you. As always, these are for entertainment purposes only. You should make your own good, well-informed decisions based on everything that you know about your own personal circumstances. I'm not here to tell you what to do or decide for you or control your life in any way. You are responsible for yourself, as we all are. Until next time, take care of yourselves, be kind to one another, and I look forward to seeing you in my next live stream. Bye, everybody.